Some movies are just ahead of their time, and it's only with time do people begin to understand and respect what these films were trying to say. In this video, let's talk about one such film that is not only beloved by fans, but is also getting rebooted. Let's talk about Escape from New York. When John Carpenter, known for directing cinematic masterpieces like The Thing, They Live, and Halloween, came back 15 years later with a sequel to his iconic action science fiction movie Escape from New York in 1996, Escape from L.A. became a commercial disappointment and received a mixed critical response. But with the passage of time, its reputation has grown in stature, achieving cult status among many Carpenter and Snake Plissken fans. It has only become more relevant with time because the politics depicted in the film do not seem as far-fetched today when you take our contemporary real-world politics into consideration. In this video, as you can guess from the title, we'll cover everything we know about the new Escape from New York reimagining, while also looking at why Escape from L.A. still matters to Snake Plissken's legacy. Alright folks, without wasting any more time, let's jump right in. Why it took so long to happen, and why it initially failed. For more than 10 years, Escape from L.A. was stuck in the development stage. When the screenwriter first wrote the script for the movie back in 1987, with the involvement of Dino De Laurentiis, John Carpenter did not like the script, dismissing it as too light and campy. John Carpenter did not have a favorable view of the sequels, especially the sequels to his iconic horror masterpiece Halloween. It is definitely one of the reasons why it took so long for John Carpenter to develop and make Escape from L.A. Kurt Russell wanted to return as Snake Plissken on the big screen because he loved that character and wanted to play him again. Kurt Russell was extremely enthusiastic about the idea and kept pushing for it. Eventually, John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, and Deborah Hill collaborated together to write the film, so we know that they were serious this time. John Carpenter used Kurt Russell's enthusiasm for reprising his role as Snake Plissken to motivate himself to write the movie. Kurt Russell also took inspiration from real-life events that took place in Los Angeles, such as the 1994 Northridge earthquake and the 92 LA riots. After its release, the film grossed around $25.5 million in the United States and Canada and roughly $42 million worldwide, against a reported budget of about $50 million. Because of that, the movie failed to become a commercial success. Critics were divided as well. Many of them called it cheesy, campy, and ludicrous, while others praised it for being fun, dark, anarchic, and successful in capturing a twisted dystopian version of Los Angeles. However, we have to admit one thing. This movie took a lot of risks. It was offbeat, satirical, campy, and fun in a way only a John Carpenter movie can be. And it came out in 1996 during the peak blockbuster era while refusing to play safe. What John Carpenter and Kurt Russell have actually said about this movie. Because of his negative views on sequels and the way many Halloween sequels turned out, John Carpenter almost decided not to make Escape from L.A. at all. In fact, Carpenter himself has admitted that Kurt Russell's enthusiasm for a sequel to Escape from New York, along with his passion for Snake Plissken, really set things in motion. Russell did not just love the character and wanted to play him again. He was actively involved in writing the movie alongside John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. He pushed hard for the film to get made and remained persistent about it. Regarding the mixed reception the movie received upon release, John Carpenter has said that he was neither surprised nor disappointed. He later explained that many of his movies, which initially received poor reviews or were misunderstood, eventually gained appreciation years later after being reassessed by audiences and critics. He acknowledged that filmmakers cannot control how a movie will ultimately be received over time. In some ways, John Carpenter has even argued that Escape from L.A. is more politically relevant than its predecessor because of how accurately it reflects modern anxieties surrounding authoritarianism, immigration policies, moral extremism, and cosmetic obsession, especially through scenes like the horrifying Bruce Campbell's surgeon sequence. Despite the movie's campy and over-the-top tone, the satire underneath it is razor sharp. At times, it almost feels like the movie predicted aspects of modern culture. John Carpenter also stated in interviews that Escape from L.A. was released against Independence Day at the box office, which was a giant crowd-pleasing blockbuster. Meanwhile, Escape from L.A. was darker, stranger, more cynical, and far more satirical. From a mainstream commercial perspective, it simply never stood much of a chance. How the movie's legacy shifted from flop to cult classic. On Rotten Tomatoes, Escape from L.A. currently holds a critic score of around 57%. Audience reactions were far more divided when the film first released, but appreciation for the movie has grown considerably over time. Even back then, some critics defended it. Roger Ebert gave the movie 3.5 out of 4 stars and praised its manic energy, bizarre imagination, and satirical edge. He even compared it favorably to Independence Day, arguing that Escape from L.A. was willing to take risks that safer blockbusters avoided. In a retrospective article published by The Atlantic in 2013, writer Alan Zilberman discussed where Snake Plissken shuts down all technology across Earth and says, "Welcome to the human race. In today's world of smartphones, social media, streaming platforms, podcasts, and online dependency, that ending feels far more relevant than it did in 1996. The sequel that almost happened, Escape from Earth. After Escape from L.A., the idea of another sequel titled Escape from Earth was discussed. However, because Escape from L.A. underperformed commercially and divided critics, the project never moved forward. John Carpenter explained that Escape from Earth would have continued directly from the ending of Escape from L.A., with Snake Plissken traveling through space after shutting down the planet's technology systems. Judging from that premise alone, the movie would likely have required large-scale visual effects and a much bigger budget. Unfortunately, the movie never entered production. Carpenter has also dismissed the fan theory claiming that ideas from Escape from Earth were later reused for Ghosts of Mars, saying that while it makes for an interesting rumor, it is ultimately fake. Kurt Russell has also stated that Snake Plissken is now a young man's role, making the chances of a third film starring him increasingly unlikely. So, realistically, fans probably should not expect John Carpenter and Kurt Russell to reunite to finish the trilogy. Still, there was a period when the possibility felt very real. What's actually happening now? The Escape from New York reimagining. As of now, the only officially confirmed project is a new reimagining of Escape from New York, currently in development at Studio Canal, which was announced during CinemaCon 2026. Earlier versions of the reboot over the years had names like Lee Wanell and Radio Silence connected to the project in various reports. However, the current Studio Canal version does not yet have an officially confirmed director, cast, writer, or release date attached to it. So right now, one thing is clear. Escape from New York is back in development, but it's still in its very early stages. Let's see how far this project ultimately goes. Hopefully, it becomes an awesome reimagining worthy of the original cult classic, although reaching the level of the 1981 movie definitely will not be easy. So what would a true Escape from L.A. follow-up need to do? Escape from L.A. never became as commercially successful or critically beloved as Escape from New York. However, over time, it gained cult status and became increasingly politically relevant as many of its themes started feeling disturbingly familiar in the modern world. Let's suppose we eventually get a true continuation of Escape from L.A. someday. Where could the story even go? The ending of Escape from L.A., where Snake Plissken disables all technology across Earth, is incredibly consequential. A sequel could explore the aftermath of that decision head-on. What would a world without technology actually look like? Would humanity finally reconnect with itself and become more human again? Or would civilization collapse completely? Would power struggles and authoritarian politics simply return in another form because human nature itself never changes? And would Snake Plissken even come back to Earth after leaving for space? John Carpenter himself has admitted that the ending of Escape from L.A. is actually very dark when you think about its implications. Based on Carpenter's own comments regarding the movie's political relevance in the 2020s, any modern continuation would need to fully embrace the satirical, dystopian, and politically charged tone of the originals. It could not simply become a nostalgia-driven action movie. It would need to double down on themes involving authoritarianism, moral extremism, media obsession, technological dependency, and cosmetic culture. Kurt Russell has openly admitted that he is probably too old for the role now. However, John Carpenter once jokingly mentioned that Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell, could potentially play Snake Plissken one day. Still, that was never presented as an actual plan. At the moment, a direct Escape from L.A. sequel is not officially in production, But maybe the true legacy of these movies still lives in how future filmmakers reinterpret dystopian America and the unforgettable anti-hero Snake Plissken. There was a time when Escape from L.A. failed to achieve either major commercial success or widespread critical acclaim, and then came a time when people started reassessing it, turning it into a cult classic that now feels more politically and culturally relevant than ever. Maybe the movie itself was never really the problem. Maybe it was simply ahead of its time and waiting for the world to catch up with it. Alright folks, it's time to sign off. We hope you enjoyed our video. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for being with us. Stay tuned. We'll meet you soon with our next video.